mother Shiri and her young children Kafir and Ariel, who were aged 9 months and 4 years when they were abducted. US President Donald Trump has stirred another controversy with an explosive claim regarding India's elections. In fact, speaking at the FII Priorities Summit, Trump questioned the allocation of $21 million under US aid aimed at boosting voter turnout in India. He speculated that the funds may have been used to influence the election outcome instead, suggesting efforts to get somebody else elected. The revelation, in fact, came as Elon Musk-led Doge disclosed the US aid allocation, triggering a political uproar here in India. Trump asserted that his administration would, in fact, raise the matter with the Indian government, calling the disclosure a total breakthrough. Take a listen.
And $21 million for voter turnout in India. What do we need to spend $21 million for voter turnout in India? Wow, $21 million. I guess they were trying to get somebody else elected. Wow, we ought to tell the Indian government, because when we hear that Russia spent about $2 in our country, it was a big deal, right? They took some internet ads for $2,000. This is a total breakthrough. $21 million for India elections.
US President Donald Trump says it would be unfair to the US if Tesla builds a factory in India to bypass high tariffs. Speaking to Fox News, Trump criticized India's import duties of around 100% on EVs, which protect local automakers like Tata Motors. Trump said it's quote-unquote impossible for Elon Musk to sell cars in India due to these tariffs. However, India recently lowered import taxes to 15% for car makers investing at least $500 million and setting up local factories in the country. Now, the EV giant Tesla has reportedly chosen locations for showrooms in New Delhi and Mumbai and posted job listings for 13 roles across India. The Pentagon has ordered military leaders to identify $50 billion in potential budget cuts for the 2026 fiscal year. The funds will be, in fact, redirected to align with President Donald Trump's defense priorities, focusing on bolstering security in the Asia-Pacific region and strengthening the US-Mexico border. The plan could also impact Biden-era programs as Trump's administration pushes for reforms. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is leading this review, which could trigger significant restructuring in the US. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's government downsizing teams or the Doge teams are also working from the Pentagon, raising concerns about civilian job cuts amid broader cost-saving efforts. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has also voiced support for congressional Republican efforts to put Washington, D.C. back under direct federal control. Speaking on board the Air Force One, Trump cited rising crime and homelessness in the US Capitol, saying, "I think we should take over Washington, D.C., make it safe." However, Congress already reviews and can overturn D.C. laws. Some Republicans are also, in fact, pushing to strip the city of its limited self-governance entirely.
I think that we should govern District of Columbia. It's so important, the D.C. situation. I think that we should run it strong, run it with law and order, make it absolutely flawlessly beautiful. And I think we should take over Washington, D.C., make it safe. People are getting killed, people are being hurt. You have a great police department there, but somehow they're not utilized properly. We should govern D.C. I think the federal government should take over the governance of D.C. and run it really, really properly. And I like the mayor. I get along great with the mayor. But they're not doing the job. Too much crime, too much graffiti, too many tents on the lawns of these magnificent lawns and there's tents.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine, KIIT Kellogg, has in fact arrived in the war-torn country. He indicated he will report to President Donald Trump after hearing about the current situation of Ukraine. The country's public broadcaster has said Kellogg will meet President Volodymyr Zelensky and the Ukrainian military's commander-in-chief as well. Observers, however, say Zelensky hopes to create an environment for talks with Trump and set a path towards realizing a peace in a fair way as sought by Ukraine. Listen in.
Дуже важливо, щоб він сам походив по Києву, по іншим містам. Він же сказав, що столиці 20-30% столиці немає, все зруйновано. Я хочу, щоб він подивився. І далі, щоб він поспілкувався з людьми. Чи довіряють вони своєму президенту? Чи довіряють вони Путіну? Нехай запитає про Трампа, що вони думають після заяв їх президента. Мені здається, це важливо. Піти, просто поговорити з людьми. Ми не хочемо його водити кудись. Нехай обере. Є тут посол, нехай походять. Мені здається, це дуже важливо зрозуміти наживо, що відбувається. А далі, як я і сказав, я готовий з ним поїхати на фронт, я поїду з ним. Так? Поїдемо і там нехай поспілкуються з військовими. Готові військові. Зараз терміново треба голосувати для того, щоб піти додому, для того, щоб все віддати русським і не мати гарантій безпеки. Ну нехай їх запитає людей, які тут живуть і воюють.
And on the other side of the border, in fact, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he would like to meet U.S. President Donald Trump, but the meeting needs to be prepared to make it productive, Putin said. The Russian leader hailed Tuesday's talks between Russian and U.S. senior officials in the Saudi capital of Riyadh as very positive. He said officials who took part in the talks described the U.S. delegation to him as completely different people who were open to negotiation process without any bias, without any condemnation of, in fact, what was done in the past, and determined to work together with Moscow. In Europe, Germany is set for a crucial snap election next week. In fact, this weekend on the 23rd of February, Sunday, triggered by dramatic collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition. My colleague Ridhima Kedia brings you this report on the major issues at play, in fact, in this high-stakes election. Take a look.
Germany heads to the polls on February 23rd in a high-stakes snap elections triggered by the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's fragile three-way coalition. As Europe's largest economy stands at a turning point, the vote will decide who leads Germany and shape the future of Europe. The race is wide open, with 7 parties vying for power. But all eyes are on 4 key contenders: incumbent Olaf Scholz, centre-left Social Democrats battling against the conservative CDU-CSU alliance, the pro-climate Greens, and the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD. Smaller players like the pro-market Free Democrats, far-left Link, and the newly formed Zara-Wagenknecht alliance are fighting for survival. Polls suggest they could miss the critical 5% threshold needed to enter parliament. Foreign policy is at the heart of this election, especially when it comes to Germany's stance on Russia's war in Ukraine. The mainstream parties are united in backing Kiev, but deep divisions persist. Scholz's SPD is striking a cautious tone, stressing diplomacy. Yet the Conservatives, Greens and Free Democrats are pushing hard for Germany to deliver long-range Taurus missiles. In stark contrast, the far-right AfD and BSW want a complete halt to weapons shipments and a reset in relations with Moscow. But the economy is an issue hitting home hardest. After 2 straight years of contraction, Germany's worst economic performance in 2 decades, voters are demanding answers. Energy prices are squeezing households and businesses alike. While there's consensus on expanding renewables, the real battle is over funding. Scholz wants to boost private investment with a €100 billion fund. The Greens back relaxing Germany's strict borrowing limits. Conservatives are promising tax cuts for businesses and citizens without revealing how they plan to fund it. Meanwhile, the AfD's radical stance includes ditching the euro entirely, reintroducing the Deutschmark, and even considering leaving the European Union. Migration and security are flashpoints. A spate of violent attacks involving foreign suspects has stoked public fears. The Conservatives demand tighter asylum rules and curbs on family reunifications. The AFD goes further, calling for border closures and mass deportations. Even Scholz's SPD has shifted rightwards, tightening border checks and speeding up deportations. But the Greens remain the outlier, standing firm on open asylum policies, state-backed sea rescues, and easier family reunifications. With the far-right AFD gaining ground and traditional powerhouses losing support, this snap election could redefine Europe's largest democracy. The big question: who will lead Germany into an uncertain future? With Rhythm Arcadia, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
And Pope Francis, who's currently battling double pneumonia, has shown slight improvement, according to the Vatican. The 88-year-old pontiff remains in stable condition at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he was admitted last week after facing breathing difficulties. Blood tests have revealed some improvement, especially in inflammatory markers. However, the Pope is still dealing with a complex situation involving a polymicrobial infection requiring an extended hospital stay. Public events remained cancelled through Sunday. Meanwhile, Italian PM Giorgia Meloni, who visited the Pope, in fact, said he was alert and even shared some jokes. Over in Argentina, protesters, including pensioners, unions, and opposition supporters, clashed with police near the country's Congress. They're demanding higher pensions and rejecting President Javier Milei's harsh austerity measures. Now, Milei's cost-cutting policies like slashing subsidies, freezing wages, and even halting public works projects have sparked weekly protests in the country. The unrest intensified after Milei endorsed a cryptocurrency named Libra on social media, which later crashed, costing investors millions of dollars together. The coin, linked to a suspicious website it's been found, has been branded a scam by critics. Milei, known for his libertarian slogans, now faces growing backlash over both economic hardship and the crypto controversy. U.S. President Trump's administration is designating 8 cartels and criminal gangs in Latin America as foreign terrorist organizations. Now, the notice lists some of the most powerful cartels in Mexico, including the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Take a look at this report.
The notice lists some of the most powerful cartels in Mexico, including the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel. It also lists the Salvadoran MS-13 gang and the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang, which has become a political talking point for American right-wing politicians pushing for an immigration crackdown. The groups are involved in drug trafficking, migrant smuggling, and violent turf wars, but they're more focused on raking in money than political, like most terrorist organizations. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the groups pose a risk to U.S. national security, foreign policy, and economic interests. It's still unclear how the Trump administration will use the designation to pursue the groups. It would not dramatically expand the government's capacity to go after cartels or take military action in Mexico, but some experts say it would allow Trump to further pressure Mexico and the government to more easily crack down on migration, since migrants are usually forced to pay smugglers connected to the groups to get to the U.S.
Meanwhile, officials urged residents to stay off the roads in portions of Virginia and North Carolina on Wednesday, where a storm dropped heavy snow and caused hundreds of accidents in places that aren't accustomed to significant accumulations of snow. Now, the storm promised to bring more misery to some places just starting to clean up from deadly weekend floods, in fact. The National Weather Service in the U.S. says snow totaling up to 10 inches is possible along the Atlantic coast in Virginia, and major ice could in fact also accumulate in parts of eastern North Carolina. And it's time we step into a short break. I'll see you on the other side.
Sitting quietly while your car is made all shiny. Downtime can be just fine too. Ready meal is piping hot. Waterproof on the loo. Just enjoy your back tattoo. Tea break, face break, maybe even watch the ad break. Sometimes it's not time for some tombola, right? It's enjoying lasagna time, chilling with a book time, or time to visit your nan time. Put the phone down.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
बड़े-बड़े देशों में छोटी-छोटी बातें होती रहती है. Just move on, just move.
Rapid fire questions that my team has given,
Let's
and
do
they're also in the same age group, of almost in that same age group that you cater to the most. And they have said that Ankur must reply in one quick line.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Which is entrepreneurship or mentorship?
Oh, entrepreneurship, any day.
Success or happiness?
Happiness.
Risk taking or playing it safe?
Oh, risk taking, any day.
Building a company or building a personal brand?
Building a company, for sure.
Big ideas or small sustainable steps?
Small sustainable steps.
Would you rather face criticism from peers or customers?
Customers, any day.
Work-life balance or hustle culture?
Work-life balance.
I thought that was a close one, but
Yes.
in your early career, struggling with failure or enjoying quick wins?
No, struggling with failure.
Rift with Ashneer Grover. I will give you 2 sentences for this, not one.
I can't explain it. That's the only sentence I have. I've never met him. I don't know him. I don't know what's up with him, but I wish him the best.
But what was it? Public fallout, or would you have preferred a private resolution?
No, I will respond if I know what the genesis is, but I'll be dumb if I'm just responding to something that's thrown in thin air.
You never reached out to him to ask
Why
what's
would
happening?
I? No, of course. I don't know him. I have no contact with him. I've never met him. So I don't know what's happening. So it's all speculation. And the media house is like, oh, do you want to respond? Like, what? Respond to what, bro? I don't even know what happened. Okay. Because I have no idea. And I certainly don't take any of this to heart. It doesn't inflect me. My life is just so gainful. Couldn't care less.
Finally, would you rather mentor an aspiring entrepreneur or work alongside them in a startup?
Oh, that's a... If I'm 20, I would work alongside an entrepreneur, a founder. But at this age, I would love to mentor aspiring founders.
Welcome back. You're watching The World Report on NDTV. Now, President Donald Trump has expressed frustration with Boeing over delays in delivering 2 new Air Force One aircraft. Speaking about the Air Force One, Trump said, "I'm not happy with Boeing," adding that his administration may even explore alternative options. The aircraft deliveries are running at least 3 years behind schedule under a fixed-price contract. While Trump dismissed Airbus as an alternative, the White House's criticism highlights growing pressure on Boeing to meet its commitments. Dixon Technologies India, the assembler of Google Pixel smartphones, is on track to more than double its revenue this fiscal year. The growth comes as India's electronics manufacturing sector expands, driven by global tech giants like Google and Apple shifting supply chains away from China. Dixon reported revenue of rupees 177.13 billion for the 2024 financial year, a 45% rise in fact from the previous year. The Noida-based company also assembles smartphones for Xiaomi and Oppo and has even expanded into component manufacturing, with India offering billions in incentives. The country's electronics sector is projected to in fact grow from rupees 1.46 trillion in 2022 to rupees 6 trillion by 2027. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan is expected to raise interest rates once more this year, likely in the third quarter, that is, to 0.75%. A Reuters poll shows most economists predicting the hike as wage growth remains strong. The country continues to push for higher rates, standing apart from other major economies that are in fact easing rates on the other hand due to global concerns, including potential impacts from US President Donald Trump's tariff policies. And oil prices slipped after an industry report shows a rise in US crude inventories. Brent crude dropped 22% to $75.82 a barrel, while the US West Texas Intermediate fell 30 cents to $71.95 a barrel. Despite nearing a one-week high, concerns over US tariffs and supply chain disruptions in Russia continue to impact market sentiment. US President Donald Trump revealed that his administration is in fact in discussions with China over the future of TikTok. Speaking to reporters aboard the Air Force One, Trump did not elaborate on details but indicated ongoing negotiations as the US seeks a potential sale. Yes, it's seeking a potential sale of the popular video sharing app. Now, the move comes amid broader concerns over data security and even foreign ownership of tech platforms operating in the United States. Apple has introduced its first custom-designed modem chip, reducing reliance on Qualcomm. The C1, as they're calling it, modem will feature in Apple's newly launched iPhone 16e, priced at $599. The chip is part of the company's strategy to incorporate more in-house components across its product lineup, promising improved battery life and even performance. Now, Qualcomm now expects its share of Apple modem chips to drop significantly by 2026. Japanese automaker Suzuki Motor is in fact betting big on India as it targets a 33% jump in global sales by 2030. The company aims to sell 4.2 million vehicles worldwide, with India accounting for 60% of those sales. To fuel this growth, the company plans to invest 2 trillion yen or $13 billion, with the majority going, of course, to India. The company also aims for a 10% operating profit margin and nearly 50% revenue jump to 8 trillion yen by the end of the decade. Meta-owned WhatsApp has surpassed 46.8 million monthly active users in the EU, crossing the threshold to be classified as a very large online platform under the EU's Digital Services Act. In fact, the designation means WhatsApp must now comply with stricter regulations, including tackling illegal content and addressing system risks. Failure to comply within 4 months could in fact result in fines of up to 6% of Meta's global annual revenue. Top seed Alexander Zverev batted past Kazakhstan's Alexander Shevchenko to secure a spot in the Rio Open quarterfinals. Now, Zverev edged Shevchenko in 2 tough tie-breaks, winning 7-6, 7-6. He will face Argentina's Francesco Comasena in the last 8. Meanwhile, defending champion Sebastian Baez overcame fellow Argentine Mariano Navon, keeping his title defense hopes still alive. Neymar played 69 minutes in Santos' 3-0 victory over Noreste in the Paulista A1, marking a significant step in his return to full fitness. The victory keeps Santos at the top of Group B, with Neymar's performance signaling a promising comeback. And the Champions Trophy has officially already begun, and the next game is going to be played between India and Bangladesh today at the Dubai International Stadium. In fact, the game is already underway. This is set to be a battle between 2-time champion trophy winners and the unpredictable underdogs. Grammy, Emmy and Tony Award-winning star Cynthia Erivo will be hosting the 2025 Tony Awards. Erivo, widely recognized for her role in Wicked, will take center stage at New York's iconic Radio City Music Hall on the 8th of June this year. The ceremony will air live on CBS and stream on Paramount+. With a string of accolades, including a Golden Globe and 3 Oscar nominations, Erivo adds another milestone to her career. Now, the event, presented by the Broadway League and the American Theatre Wing, celebrates the best of American theatre. Well, that's all we have for you on this broadcast. Take care and have a wonderful day.
From tech titan to global philanthropist, Bill Gates has had a huge impact on the lives of millions across the world. As the co-founder of Microsoft, he's in a sense defined what personal computing has been for all of us. The vision that he had of the personal computer way back in the 70s and its evolution and the transformation of Microsoft has been fundamental in terms of tech, in terms of IT, in terms of the entire sector. And it's time now for Mr. Gates to pen his thoughts down, which is why he's come out with this. This is the first of 3 books. It's called Source Code, My Beginnings, and it's my great privilege to be over here in Palm Springs, in California, to speak about this. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be over here, fly all the way across the world, and I've had a chance to really go through this book. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you.
One of the primary themes which I found throughout the book has to do with your own intensity. The fact that you've always been driven. I mean, we know that as a fact, but we perhaps didn't know about the extent to which you were focused. And you write, for example, and I quote, "Like one of those watertight hatches on a submarine, I could shut out the rest of the world. Driven by the sense of responsibility I felt for Microsoft, I had closed the hatch door and locked the wheel. No girlfriend, no hobbies. My social life centered around Paul, Rick, and the people we worked with. It was the one way I knew to stay ahead." Could you tell us about how your focus ultimately resulted in you being the Bill Gates we know today?
Well, part of my makeup, even from a young age, was that if something was fascinated, I could really dig in on it. So, learning to play cards with my grandmother, having books read to me, reading books, and mathematics early on fascinated me, and so I went into depth. But then I took that to a new level when I started Microsoft, because I knew, there'd be other people trying to do software, and I decided, no, I'm going to make sure we stay ahead. I was always kind of worried somebody else would do well. And so during my 20s, I was really monomaniacal, not only using that ability to focus, but kind of making sure that software was the only thing that I focused on.
In the huddle, it was Bangladesh who won the toss, decided to bat first. Rohit Sharma said he would have opted to field. Looks a good batting surface. Not much dew expected later. That could be the reason why Bangladesh opted to bat first and try and put some runs on the board. Mohammad Shami back in the Indian team.
What is this particular order where it ruled that High Court judges also fall action of the Lokpal Act. So they have forwarded for Chief Justice of India's opinion on this. Now Chief Justice of India, and following which the cognizance was taken, the suo motu cognizance was taken. However, today the Supreme Court, in fact, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the centre, also said that it is a concerning order, and Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal, who's the current president of SCBA, he also said that he wants to assist the Supreme Court in the matter, as it is a very it's a very concerning matter. So all in all, the Supreme Court today was more concerned about the independence of judiciary and the balance of powers that our Constitution has enshrined in upon the pillars of democracy. So now the Supreme Court will hear this case again on January 27. However, what is important today is that the Supreme Court has